right, good evening, Michigan City, Indiana, and welcome again to another exciting meeting of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. This is probably, perhaps not our last meeting of the year, because we may very well have a special meeting on December 18th, because we've got, what we're trying to do is button up some loose ends to make sure that we have a clean transition to our new leadership in the mayor's office. So, a number of exciting things still in progress. Exciting stuff doesn't stop or start at any point in time. It takes time to go through. So you can put December 18th on your calendar, probably 5 p.m. anyway. So I'm going to call the meeting to order and let the minutes show that all are in attendance with the exception of Mayor Muir and Teresa Edwards, our representative from the school corporation. And if you will, take a look at the minutes for the executive session on November 18th and the regular meeting on November 18th.
Chair, move they be approved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. All right, and a short agenda tonight, only 19 items on here. You know, we may get out of here by 6, we'll see. All right, Mr. Phillips, approval of claims for December.
Okay, you should have a claims docket in front of you dated December 9th, 2019. On that, you will note standard payroll items for November of 2019. Claims to the operating fund include monthly retainer for November of 2019 to Alan Ciernak. Copier fees for September, October, and November of 2019. First year of the contract for recording software for the recording our meetings that Debbie uses for doing that for our meetings, and then Dune's office for a file cabinet for her for record keeping. Claims to the North TIF Fund include a claim to American Structure Point for work related to the US 12 and Center Street traffic study and analysis. Claim to August Mack for work being done on the Michigan City Station Block project. Baker Tilly for work related to two redevelopment projects in the Trail Creek corridor. Beam Longson Neff for right-of-way acquisition services related to the station block and the acquisition process for the station block. Butler Fairman and Cipher for costs related to engineering for the Singing Sands Trail Phase 2 project. EC Babilla for final costs related to the roofing expansion, or roofing portion of the Blue Chip expansion project. Hazen Associates for engineering and construction inspection work, engineering work related to the Pine and 9th Street resurfacing project and the Lion and Tiger habitat expansion projects at the Washington Park Zoo. Blue Shadley, Rachel, and Braun for legal fees related to properties in the North TIF and the Trail Creek Properties, ongoing Trail Creek Properties project. Reith Riley for asphalt paving, final payment for that regarding the Blue Chip expansion. Skyline Plastering, final payment for EFIS and stucco related to the Blue Chip expansion project. Stager Hardware for the second payment installment for the purchase of 623 Franklin. Alan Ciernak for legal fees for November 2019 in the North TIF, and John Doyle for legal description work associated with the station block project. Claims to the South TIF include reimbursement to the City of Michigan City for fees paid to Global Engineering on the Village Road reconstruction project. D&M Excavating for earthwork related to the Bozic Honda expansion project. Global Engineering for costs related to the construction inspection for the Franklin Street repaving project. Hazen Associates for construction and administration for the Ameriplex Drive project. Larson Danielson for costs related to contaminated soil and asbestos removal for the demolition of the previous building located on the current location of the Bozak Honda expansion project. Alan Ciernak for legal fees for November 2019 in the South TIF. And U.S. Bank for filing fees for the refunding of the 2011 bonds, which were the Cleveland Avenue bonds. There were no claims to the Northeast TIF. Claims to the U.S. Bank 2018 Ohio Street Bond project. Payment to the Sanitary District for reimbursement of fees related to the Village Road Southwind Stormwater Improvement Project. And Reith Riley for final release of retainage for the Ohio Street Reconstruction Project. And there were no claims to the U.S. Bank Lafayette Barker refunded bond account or the U.S. Bank double track bond project.
All right, any questions on the claims? What's the preference of the commission?
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Claims are approved. Let's go on to the financial report for October 31st.
You should have a balance sheet in front of you dated October 31st, 2019. On that, first item, their cash. The operating account currently has a balance of $203,161.24. The Southside TIF account has a balance of $6,049,514.04. You'll note that's reflective of our payment for the South Shore double track project.
Okay.
The Southside TIF debt reserve account has a balance of $336,292.68. The Southside TIF capital account has a balance of $17,592.84. The North TIF account has a balance of $2,677,787. The Wabash Street Streetscape construction account has a balance of $122,312.54. The Wabash Street Streetscape debt reserve account has a balance of $216,051.87. The Northeast TIF account has a balance of $124,097.05, bringing all total cash on hand to $9,746,809.26. Loans receivable include a loan to the East Side TIF from operating account of $21,028.49, and our portion of the county business loan fund of $133,333. Total loans receivable $154,361.49, which brings our total assets to $9,901,170.75.
Which is significantly reduced. I'm assuming it's the South Shore.
Yeah, it's
and some other spends.
Yeah, it's the payment of the majority of that is the payment of the South Shore cash payment for the double track project.
So, and we all received these in our email packet, but I don't think we had the balance sheet in our.
Oh, you didn't?
I don't think so. So.
Oh, and I didn't get copies of it. So I read it completely.
You want him to make
So
copies?
I
Are
can
you
pass
okay
it
with
around
the
if you need
verbal
to look at
report?
it.
We're okay with the verbal, I think. If they're,
Okay.
I don't know. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you. All right. Our first regular agenda. Is that me? Oh. Okay. Request for MC Main Street to utilize the Redevelopment Commission property owned. Abby May. I just want to say, come on down. You know, it's just.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Abby May. I'm the president of the Michigan City Main Street Association. We'll be hosting
Do you have an
the
address?
211 Avalon Court.
Thank you.
We'll be hosting the Shelf Ice Brew Fest on February 15th, and we would like to request permission to use the RDC lots on the corner of 7th and Franklin, both north and south of 7th Street. We use these lots for a warming tent, for bands to play, and various experiential enhancements, which vary from year to year.
Okay. We have kind of a standard form on this that we work with.
We typically provide a copy of our insurance.
Okay. But I thought there was a Board of Works
Well,
request.
they already received it. Sorry.
We
Okay.
did
Board
receive Board of Works approval.
Oh, you did? Okay, that's,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
So our
I just want to make sure we follow our own process.
Yep, we
Thank you.
ask Board of Works approval beforehand, and then it's just pending RDC approval to use the lot.
Great, great. All right, any questions? What's the pleasure of the commission?
Move to approve.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Looks like we're gonna have shelf ice again this year
Thank
in
you.
Michigan City. Thank you, Abby. Thanks for your good work. All right, number 7, facade program, request for funding for Wake Robin property, 2nd Street.
Let me ask a question real quick. Did you just have the one?
For the next meeting.
I don't know. This is kind of confusing. We received this in November. Yeah, just let me ask real quick. So
No.
the email that we had in our packet. There were other requests on here. Did you get all the requests taken care of?
Can I see?
Because you sent us an email in November saying on the 18th of November, the Board Works approved the request to use the lots for First Fright Artwork Summer Series. Did we already do all those?
Can I see?
Yeah, go ahead. That's the email you sent us. I just want to make sure you get everything you needed. At the back page, yeah, flip it over and there's a request number 1 and 2.
Oh, you're right. I didn't realize that I put them all on this one. I thought I had spread them between two. If we could do them all tonight, that would be great.
It'd be easier.
All right, so before we do that, let's finish this one. We'll come back to you next, okay?
I
Either way, you
caught
can-
that and I just wanted to make sure.
No, thank you. Let's be efficient, so.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Dan Radke, and our company is Wake Robin, Inc., and we are basically the developers of Pioneer Pier, and our office is at 508 East 2nd Street here in Michigan City. And tonight, we are thankful to be on your agenda, and we are presenting a facade improvement to the building at 425 East 2nd Street, which some of you might remember as the old Wellham plant, and it's right in the middle of Pioneer Pier, and it seriously needs a facelift. And I've sent you, put a little package together showing you some of the photos of what we want to try and ameliorate. Basically, the project involves masonry. There's a lot of broken blocks, and there's tuck pointing that needs to be done, and we need to cut a few holes in to add some windows to the building. We need to block up some of the doors and windows that we don't really have any use for. And then the carpentry mostly involves installing the new windows and doors, and we want to put some awnings over a lot of the windows to give it a little sex appeal, basically. And we want to use copper colored siding on the awnings to give it a rich look. And then we want to add some gooseneck lighting on the last page. And so I think we're just here tonight to present this to you and answer any preliminary questions you might have.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for submitting the request. This is obviously why we have the facade program. What my suggestion is, unless somebody has some preliminary questions, that we put this on the agenda for our special meeting on December 18th.
Thank you.
That way we'll give Skylar and the team enough time to review the actual proposal and make recommendations to us. I don't know, Craig, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that's what I was going to suggest is that they just work with Skylar between now and the meeting on the 18th to, have him let them know if he has any questions about anything or anything that needs to be addressed between now and then. Are you planning on doing renovations to all 4 sides of the building? Or just
like 2.5 sides. It's the side that faces Bridges, and then the side
Okay.
and it's cockeyed, so I can't
Right,
really
it's
tell you
angled,
north and
yeah.
east, and because it's the side that faces Bridges,
Right.
the long side, and then the shorter side that, as you see, that you come in as you're driving in 2nd Street, that with all the windows right there, and then around the corner, about 40 feet around the corner, which you can see as you're driving into. So it's
around
basically
the corner towards the intersection of Spring and 12th? That way, or around the corner?
Coming to the west.
Or around the corner on Taylor?
No, not Taylor, the opposite end.
So the, okay.
Yeah, basically around the corner, the part we would be doing is really facing Highway 12.
Okay, that's, yeah. Okay.
And the windows themselves, are they gonna be glass or? Glass?
We're not, it's not in our budget right now to replace the windows, and right now we don't need to. I think what we're really trying to do, like we did with the old Ritter Fish House, is we put a new facade on and make it look good, and then people start coming around and saying, we'd like to do something here. Like we did the Ritter Fish House, and then Dave Albers came by and said, ooh, I'd like to make this my accounting office. So I think that's what we're trying to instigate here is.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I didn't want to necessarily get into us micromanaging the details of the
Yeah,
project from the board.
When we know what the ultimate use is going to be, then we'll put windows or whatever, close up windows or whatever, but we don't know that right now.
Okay, and I believe the budget was for 58,000.
Yes.
Something in that
Yes.
range, and
So you'd be asking for the maximum, contribution by the redevelopment commission in terms of reimbursement.
so that'd be potentially 30,000.
But again, we'll review it, Skylar will review it between now and that meeting, and
Okay.
he'll let you know if he has any
Okay.
questions.
And if any of you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Well, so I say the property approved, which is obviously the intent of the program. And I see your cheerleader in the audience. Anna, did you have anything to add to this?
Thank you for all the help you guys have given us and what you do for the city. But, and I think both of our goals are in line with just.
Can you come up?
You want to
It's
come?
even more
I'm
important-
sorry.
It's even more important tonight because we don't have our recorder here tonight, so we have to rely on the Alco.
Well, you look like you were so anxious
The
to say
recording of
something.
this.
Well, I'm Anna. I'm Dan's youngest daughter. And our goals are in line with a lot of what I think you guys do to make the city look better for guests and residents, to provide spots for businesses and jobs. And we need some help doing it. We've got a lot of property down there, and we are doing everything we can to keep them, keep and improve them so people want to be there. But we can't do it all on our own. So any help that you guys would be willing to give, we'll put in the work to, get it done and make it better.
Well, thank you. So, other questions, comments from the commission? I guess we'll see you on December 18th then at this point.
We'll be here. Thank you.
Assuming, Skylar, you can get through by then? Okay, cool. All right,
Thanks so much.
thank you. All right, next item. Item number 8, former memorial site project. This is Pine Street. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Main Street.
Thank you.
Main Street.
Well, since you delayed, I was going to make you wait till the very end of the meeting. No.
I just didn't want to leave you. I just didn't want you to leave here and
That'd
find
be my
out. Oh
punishment
shoot!
for making a
Okay,
mistake.
so request number 2.
Yeah, now I apologize for that, and thank you for correcting me. We also wanted to request permission to use the lot on the northeast corner of 7th and Franklin for our First Friday summer series, which runs May through September. So the request would be for May 1st, June 5th, July 3rd, August 7th, and September 4th from 3 to 9. That would give us time for setup and tear down. And that's just the northeast corner lot. Do we want to do these one at a time?
We should do that, and then yeah.
Great.
But, Mayor.
Is it?
There was a disconnect between what I asked you initially, so I'm really going to ask you for 3 things tonight. The motion to approve was to cover for Shelf Ice Brew Fest,
Yeah.
and that's February 15th.
Oh, you did. Oh, I didn't catch that.
Oh, well, great.
Okay.
So you made
So
the
see you at
motion,
First
right? So how much of this do we have done?
You have, I think, Shelf Ice and First Friday.
Okay, so what else do we need?
And then we would like to request permission, pardon? Yep, we'd like to request permission for the northeast and the southeast lots on the corner of 7th and Franklin for Taste of Michigan City, which would be July 30th to August 2nd.
Northeast and southwest. Correct?
Yes.
Northwest
and southwest.
Sorry, northwest and southwest.
Yeah, northwest and southwest. Those should all be the west lots.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, so we have clarity. What's the pleasure of the commission? Sure.
We amend that first one to go with Chuck's original, based on his comment, go with his original intention was he was approving the shelf ice, and we let that one go, and that's what was passed. The second one then would be the first Friday art walk, and then the third one would be the Taste of Michigan City.
Okay,
And I think
so
we just do them in three different
just to be
compartments
clear,
that
okay,
way,
so,
three different
so
events.
to,
You know, that way.
so we got shelf ice down, let's go for First Fridays then. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Motion we approve for the first Friday date. Second.
Moving second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, no, opposed. So we're, I'm sorry, same sign, opposed. Okay, we're approved. Thank you, so let's go on to Taste of Michigan City, which is the third one. So what's the pleasure of the commission?
I motion to approve taste.
Any
And
further
then-
discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed?
And then if you could just note that I was incorrect by saying east each time, there's always the northwest and southwest lots.
Okay. And Board of Works already signed off on all these?
Yep, Board of Works approved all of them
Well,
already.
you know, let me just add a compliment. It's really nice to see somebody get out in front of this stuff rather than come flying in here in June or, 2 weeks ahead of time, so.
Thanks,
Thank
it
you.
makes it easier for my work schedule too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well done. Now let's back to the agenda. Item 8, former memorial site project, John Doyle, Ruth, and Alan.
John Doyle and Associates. On Memorial Site, we poured the concrete last week. Last pour was Friday. Everything went well, and so I think we're pretty good shape for the winter.
Great.
Other than that, that's basically all I have.
So, and on that one, this was one where we were concerned about a price overrun. We went back with, Woodruff and Sons to get a better price. We got it done on time, in front of the weather.
Right, it's
Well, congratulations,
Everything's
that's
fine.
great.
And just to be certain, that's to cover the storm trapper, right?
that's correct.
Good. All right.
Yeah, that's secure, yeah.
So it's protected.
So the
and,
secure storm trap.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, it worked well.
Good. So any other questions for John?
No.
Thank you very much. Well done. We're getting there. So thanks. Okay, I don't know, Craig, do you want to take anything here with Ruth or not, or do you want me to start this up? So,
Oh, well, so I don't know with regard to the memorial project, I don't think there's any update from Ruth this time necessarily, is there? No, I think we've got the contract extension later on the agenda, so we'll cover that then.
okay, so just let me give a highlight here, and I see Tim Smith in the audience too, is we are moving ahead with MC Development to try to complete an MOU and then ultimately a development agreement for the site. As proposed by them, it was approximately a $45 million project. The city would put in approximately $4 million, part of which was the concrete we just talked about, and that they would build it next summer and be in operation in 2021 at a high level. Beautiful architecture. They're working through their finances and making sure that in the MOU we get a clear understanding between both sides of what we want to do. And I think the request this evening, correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, is to authorize me to sign an MOU and then we come back, or what's the...
Where we are, what we have been doing for the past, well, since the last meeting, has been working on developing a non-binding term sheet between the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission and the Michigan City Development LLC. And I sent you a copy of that, of at least, well, 99% of it yesterday. And then as we talked about before, and what we're bringing up now, there were some minor adjustments to it after talking with Tim this morning. But what I'd like you to do tonight, and let me back up a little bit, the non-binding term sheet was basically done to make sure that we have somewhat of an idea of what the development is going to be. and then somewhat of what what we expect of them, and then somewhat of what we were committing to and what our expectation was, or the expectation of us, and then trying to merge that into a final agreement. So the non-binding agreement or non-binding term sheet that I sent to you yesterday and that I'm asking you to approve tonight is just exactly that. Is one, to make sure we're both on the same page, and then to go forth with to see if we can have a project agreement and any other forms that go with that. And there's still some issues, significant issues that need to be addressed and will occur during the negotiations. But that just as a general idea, this is what they are saying they want to do, this is what we're saying we want to do. Just to make one correction is the fact we've talked about that the range of the project being somewhere between 35 and 45 million. It involves the Michigan City Development LLC, it involves Tenant Blank, it involves the Michigan City Redevelopment Corporation, and then with the hope that we can put something together for your consideration by next Wednesday's special meeting. Which I'm thinking is going to be doable. So, but again, I just want to make sure that you review this non-binding agreement, because we don't want to spend a lot of time and a lot of money working on getting this thing done. Turns out that I'm way out in left field again. So, but again, even getting to this point has been very helpful, I think, for Tim and me to be able to know this is what we're saying, and me to say no, this is what we're saying. So there's still an awful lot of give and take that still needs to occur, an awful lot of mutual understanding. But I think what this non-binding term sheet says is that this is the development, this is what we're expected to do, this is what we're expecting of them, and this is where it's going to end up being. I guess the only other highlight, and Tim, you can kind of go more on this if you want, is the fact that it's expected, hoped for, expected, at least at this point, that we're looking at breaking ground at the end of May of next year. And that occupancy will occur during the summer, end of summer, early fall of 2021, if all goes well. So that's kind of where we are, but that's what we're really setting forth in the motion for that.
So, and this is still in a draft form, or is this pretty much the final?
I think the non-binding term sheet, Tim and I are okay with it. I don't know what that means, but it may not mean anything. But at least from the viewpoint of this is the starting point that we will then begin on with regards to negotiations.
Okay. So, what's the pleasure of the commission? Do you want more time to review, or trust us to do something with it, or?
Talk about putting this in the 18th meeting. I think we should review it today. I'd like to have a chance to really go over it.
Okay. So, and then that will also, at this point, it's, the draft is like 99% there, but the other piece is, if we could get this done by the 18th, is actually have the development agreement also at the same time. So that'll be a heavy read at that point, because that'll get into the heavier details on this, and as well as I promised the new administration that I would go over these documents with our new mayor prior to us completing them, to make sure that he gets his input into it also. So a lot to be done here in the next week. So is that clear enough for the parties? Is it clear enough for you, Tim? Okay. Please, yes. I'm sorry. I should have had you up here. Either one, whatever you like, sir.
Good evening, Commission. Tim Smith, 15 Jamestown Drive. I think what Alan said is we've worked out the term sheet, which it's a non-binding term sheet. So if you would pass it tonight, it's it's kind of the precursor to what the contract will be.
The real agreement is the development agreement.
Right. So I mean, this is kind of laying out the terms which will be in the contract. So that's why Alan and I signed it today. So it's set to go whatever your pleasure is on it. So, I mean, if you review the term sheet and then review the contract, you're just going to be reviewing the same read pretty much.
So here's where I'm going to go. I'll just take it as signed by you at this point.
Yeah.
To the mayor, and go over it with him, and then if you want to give me the authority to sign it now, or if you want to wait till the 18th. Is that clear enough for you, Alan, or what is your suggestion?
The only thing, I'm comfortable with it, but again, considering the first conversation that Tim and I had, and I was off on a pretty substantial part of it. And it was.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where we started from, is from this
Yeah.
part and this part. And I think now we're kind of at this part, but this is the part where we need to start working on all of the details. But I also want to make sure, though, I mean, this is Alan Cernick's understanding that doesn't mean anything as far as the redevelopment commission is concerned. But what would be helpful, though, is the fact that if this non-binding term sheet does reflect the redevelopment commission, then we know where we're going as far as the actual negotiation for the project agreement.
Right.
Clearly, it reflects what they're doing, what their position is. But again, I don't want to kid you from the view there are some substantial things that still need to be overcome, which I believe we can do. But
Right.
clearly, there's an awful lot of discussion that needs to occur before
Yeah.
we can get to that. We get to the point of having a final project agreement.
Yeah.
What I'm more concerned, though, is just making sure that where I am with this term sheet is pretty much where you guys are at. Not 100%, but just as 90%, 95%, and that's kind of where, I think that's where you and I have left it at this point.
Yeah, and we're happy to bring Dirk Lohan in and the team to do a presentation to the redevelopment commission too. We've always said that, so.
So given the draft we have, it in my mind doesn't hurt too much if I don't actually sign the document until the 18th. But we concurrently, since it is substantial what has been discussed in public, which are the key elements in the agreement, I don't think we'll be burning up a lot of wasted time on working on the development agreement concurrently.
You won't be signing this on the 18th. I mean, the big thing is going to be if we're right on everything, then the project agreement is what will be signed on the 18th, as well as
Right.
any other documents
That's
that
what
go
I'd
with
like to
that.
say.
So
Right,
you won't be
exactly.
signing this on the 18th.
And that's why I said, the term sheet tonight is non-binding, and it's just basically the terms that are going to be, in the final agreement.
So is that clear enough? Are you still confused, or?
No.
So,
Great.
what I'm hearing is, I don't know if you don't vote on it, but we're gonna move ahead in
Yeah.
anticipation we're gonna have something more substantial on the 18th.
Right. And you're going to take it back to the mayor-elect
Yes,
to make
exactly.
sure
Right, I wanna
he's
make-
comfortable with it.
I wanna make sure we're
Right.
all walking in lockstep here. This is a
Right.
big deal for the city, so.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to be here, and we look forward to working with the commission, so thank you.
Okay, be in touch. Thank you. It's exciting. All right, so anything else on Memorial Site? All right, Blue Chip Expansion Project, Mr. Cernak.
Two things, really. We are done with that project, or our part of the project. I think the entire project itself is done. So the first thing is that they have submitted a certificate of final completion, which needs the commission's approval. Let me stop there. That basically is what we do with all contracts that we have entered into, all contracts that the city enters into, not just the redevelopment commission, that you enter in the agreement, you get to substantial completion, which you guys approved last month, and now we're in for final completion, which basically means we're done with everything during the claims docket. We finished a payoff to the three contractors that were involved in that project. So that would be the first thing that I would ask you to approve.
Okay, so this is approval for the certificate of completion? All right, what is the,
Move to approve.
moved and seconded? Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. What else?
The second thing is, I've drafted a termination of license agreement, which I finally got approval from the Boyd Gaming earlier today. Just kind of review that real quickly. When we use any kind of redevelopment commission money on any kind of project that's owned by somebody else, we need to have some kind of an interest in the property. So the interest we had in the Blue Chip property was basically a license agreement that allowed us to be spending our money on these three areas: the roof, the facade, the stucco facade, and the concrete for their parking lot. And now that we've completed the project, we need to terminate our interest in that. So basically what I'm asking here is for you to approve the termination of the license agreement that was entered into back at the beginning of the project.
All right, pleasure of the commission. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Thank you, carries. Okay, did you have a third item?
No, that was, I just want to say, in working with Berglund Construction and the people from Boyd Gaming, this was a fun project, this was a good project, this was a, I don't want to say it's an easy project, but boy, it sure was, it was very easy to work with those people. Good communication back and forth, and I think it shows in the final project. So.
All right, so I missed part of that, so I missed signing that one, so thank you. So action needed is what? Oh, okay, perfect. So, what's the pleasure of the commission? Oh, I thought there was a third item. That's what I was asking. Okay, I'm sorry. Well, this is another one here too, so. Got it. Thank you. This one's for Chuck. And then this one. All right, so let's get back on track here. So that's the blue chip item. I'm going to now. I want to jump the agenda here a little bit. We have an addendum to the agenda for this evening to discuss a riverfront license on 4th Street, and I see Anthony Novak here. Would you want to give us a little overview?
Sure, happy to do so. Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Anthony Novak. I'm an attorney with Newby, Lewis, Kaminsky & Jones. I appreciate the time tonight. Here tonight on behalf of an application for a riverfront permit. The applicant here specifically is RK Tap House and Grill LLC, doing business as the Ritz Club. Here with me tonight is the owner, Benjamin Rule. As indicated in our application, Ben has a contract to purchase the Ritz Club from the current owners, the Komasinskis. Ritz currently operating under a two-way permit, contract contingent upon Ben ultimately getting this three-way riverfront. Prior to this meeting, we submitted an application that had the business plan, the narrative, the financials, the proposed menu. I obviously have extra copies of the application if anyone would like. So I'd like Ben to make a little bit of a presentation about ultimately what he's going to do. If at any time, that's enough information for you guys and you want to stop him, let him know.
There's never enough information,
so I'm going to let Ben basically do the heavy lifting, but I just like to reiterate that this type of program is an economic development tool, the purpose of which is to grow and make inviting the downtown area, to attract people to Michigan City, and to incentivize people to invest in downtown Michigan City. It's because of that program that Ben is here tonight trying to make this substantial investment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ben.
Thank you.
Good evening. A couple of you I know from being in the beer business, John and Pat. Nice to see you guys again. It's been a long time. Last time I think I saw you guys, I actually had hair, so it's been a long time. Good evening, the commission and board members. Thank you for accepting my application and taking the time to listen to both my attorney Anthony and I this evening. I would first like to start by introducing myself and talking a bit about my family history in the Michigan City and LaPorte County area, as well as my background as it relates to my application and plans for the Ritz Club property. My name is Ben Rule. I'm married and have two 6-year-olds. My occupation, I'm an entrepreneur, investor, CrossFit gym owner, personal trainer, independent business consultant in the beer industry. I grew up in Long Beach, attended Long Beach Elementary School, Krieger Junior High, Elston, and Michigan City High Schools. I attended Indiana University in Bloomington and graduated with a Bachelor in Fine Arts and minor in Art History. As some of you on the commission already know, my professional experience is rooted in the beer industry and beer and distribution business. I come from a legacy of entrepreneurs, tavern owners, and family involved in the beer business dating back to 1908. Most of the tavern and beer distribution legacy is mainly on the Rule side of the family, but there's also a small part on my mother's side. To briefly go back in history, my great-grandfather Joseph on my mother's side delivered beer in a horse-drawn wagon in downtown Chicago before Prohibition, circa 1919. Circa 1908, my grandfather Louis A. Rule owned a tavern in LaPorte at the corner of Lincoln Way and Michigan Avenue, now known as Zeldin Shoes. I actually have some photos that I want to share with you guys. Pass these out. These are, it's the same. The first photo is the tavern my great-grandfather had. Many years later, the tavern was eventually moved a few blocks southeast on Lincoln Way, named Rule's Cafe. As the tavern was in operation, my grandfather, Arthur L. Rule Sr., bought LaPorte County Beverage in Michigan City in 1945 with other minority shareholders. During this time, my grandfather hired his brother-in-law, Chuck Spinning, to run the distributorship while he practiced law in LaPorte and ran the tavern. LaPorte County Beverage had 2 locations in Michigan City. The first location was on Chicago Street between 11th and 10th near the tracks. That building is long gone by now. And then 700 West 6th Street, which is directly behind the Lighthouse Place outlets. My father, Robert L. Rule, took over as president of LaPorte County Beverage in the early 70s when my Uncle Chuck retired. LaPorte County Beverage was eventually moved to South Bend in 1988 when Miller Brewing Company approached my father about buying out some underperforming distributorships and to consolidate those distributors into what eventually became Metro Beverages Incorporated. Metro Beverages entered the South Bend market with less than 15% share of market versus the 80% plus share of market the local Anheuser-Busch distributor United Beverage had at the time. As the years went on, Metro Beverages worked hard, added skilled employees, positions, and new brands to its growing portfolio. Through these changes and additions, Metro Beverages slowly chipped away at the 80% share of market its competitor had to eventually become the market leader with close to 60% share of market when Metro Beverages sold to Indiana Beverage in 2009. After that sale, my father retired. Outside of our family beer business, both my grandfather and Uncle Art Jr. attained law degrees from Notre Dame, practiced law, and served as city attorneys in LaPorte. My cousin Mark Rule also graduated from Notre Dame with a law degree and has served as deputy prosecutor in both St. Joseph County and LaPorte County. My Aunt Connie Ebert Rule also served as clerk treasurer in LaPorte many years ago. My experience in the beer industry started when I was a teenager, serving various roles at Metro Beverages while working my way up in the company. Some of my various roles included warehouse work, loading and unloading trucks, picking orders, delivery help, on-premise merchandiser, off-premise merchandiser, grocery stocker, special events manager, on-premise sales manager and marketing manager, then co-owner and VP of sales and marketing. After I finished college, I worked for Monarch Beverage in Indianapolis as an off-premise sales representative for 3 years before eventually returning to Metro to help both my father and brother run the company. So through all of this, it brings us to now. Life, family, and legacy at times has a tendency to come full circle. This full circle brings me to the Ritz Club. The Ritz Club history and my family history have many similarities. Through the history of my family's legacy and the Ritz Clubs, I see the Ritz as a history book. An establishment that has stood the test of time, ran by generations of family that have put passion and care into continuing with the business near and dear to their hearts. I find this as an opportunity to not only continue the legacy of the Ritz, but also my family's legacy as well. As you have read in my business plan and application, I plan to bring the Ritz into the 21st century while at the same time preserving the history and unique character of the tavern that helps tell the history of Michigan City. There's no other tavern quite like the Ritz in Michigan City, and I have every intention to preserve that uniqueness while also giving the establishment and property the proper upgrades, repairs, cares, ideas, and attention it needs to survive for another century. I feel a connection to the Ritz Club, history, through my families. I also realize the importance of what the tavern means to the city. During the time of the Haskell and Barker Car Company and Pullman Standard, the Ritz, or Buffet Polsky, must have been a bustling tavern. The Ritz Club also survived Prohibition, as well as my family's tavern. I find all this intriguing in many ways. There are so many stories to be told. As I mentioned before, the Ritz is a history book to the city. I tend to use the Ritz to continue to tell not only the city's history and the Ritz's history, but my family's history in the tavern and beer business as well. As stated in my business plan and application, adding liquor to the Ritz is an incredible opportunity, which is why Anthony and I are here today. Adding liquor will not only increase revenue, but will also create a better opportunity to help me reinvest, grow the business, and hire employees. In addition to liquor, I plan to add an extensive craft and import beer selection, craft cocktails, family-friendly lunch and dining until 9 p.m., menu additions, and late-night food. I also plan to market the tavern to increase overall business. Future plans will be to add a beer garden, dine-in, takeout, and delivery pizza in the future. That's down the road. The improvements will also continue beyond the tavern business. I plan to utilize the current available grants in the historic and UA district to help preserve the current facade and improve the apartment spaces that are included with the property. My initial investment for the property and business, including purchase price, is projected to be over $400,000 in the first year. This number also includes $30,000 to $50,000 of projected improvements and upgrades. To summarize, first, I'm very excited and passionate about this new venture. I'm a Michigan City native who understands the importance of the Ritz, the history of it in relation to the city, and the enormous potential the establishment has. As shown in detail in my business plan and application, both Anthony and I believe we meet all the requirements of the RDC for the riverfront liquor permit. We hope that the Commission finds my plans to be in the best interest of preserving a Michigan City landmark and that it will create a new life for the Ritz for years to come. Both Anthony and I greatly appreciate your time and consideration. Anthony and I are happy to answer any questions you guys may have and provide any additional information. Thank you very much.
Great. So, any questions? Oh, well, I've got one. So, can you really get beer muscles lifting up mugs, or you see you're a trainer too?
Yeah. Well, both.
Okay, both. All right. So anyway, my poor joke. So, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Appreciate it
And
very much.
compliments
Thank
to
you.
you, Anthony.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
To both of you, the application was excellent. So thank you. Appreciate the diligence on that.
Thank you for your
So,
time.
Thank you.
Thanks for stopping in.
All right.
All right.
You guys.
Item 11, approval, I'm sorry. Item number 10, we have pretty much resolved outside of the meeting. Item number 11, approval of addendum to contract for Neighborhood Capital Institute. Mr. Phillips.
Okay, so this consists of two elements. The first is an addendum to an existing contract that we have with Neighborhood Capital Institute. Ruth Warren is here with us this evening. Ruth, if you want to come up real quick. So the idea here is basically to have a monthly retainer. I'm asking for approval for 3 months to allow for some continuity of the work that's already been done on the work to ultimately redevelop the station block area between 10th and 11th Streets in Pine and Franklin. A lot of work has gone into getting us to the point we are. A lot of current conversations going on with NICTE, the Redevelopment Commission, the Regional Development Authority, on and on. And so in an effort to be able to continue the momentum that's been created and allow Ruth as a representative of the Redevelopment Commission to hopefully have conversations with the mayor-elect about continuing that work going forward and the relationship hopefully with NICTE on the double track project. I think it's necessary for us to have a retainer for until such time as it's determined that it's no longer necessary, but for now to guarantee that for the next 3 months at a rate of $5,000 per month over the next 3 months, so a total of $15,000 to commit to now, but the ability to extend that as needed as retainer
Extend
going
or shorten.
forward, or shorten, depending on what the wish of the commission is. Secondary to that, as part of the original contract we had with Neighborhood Capital Institute, one of the partners involved in that contract was
subcontractors.
One of the subcontractors in that contract was SCB, which is an architecture multidisciplinary firm in Chicago that helped us with a lot of the scaling and massing and understanding the architectural realities associated with the station block project. They are also heavily in conversation with NICTE and regarding the South Shore Double Track project and specifically the development of the station block itself. And again, it would be critical for SCB, for Christine Carlisle and SCB to be directly involved in conversations for the purpose of continuity, including hopeful conversations with the mayor-elect going forward. And to that end, she's given us a request for contract for $3,000 per month, and I would be requesting 3 months again to allow for coverage of conversations that have been happening this month as well as into January and February of next year, so a total of $9,000 on that. So I would ask for these two things to be subject to final review and approval by our attorney. and give the authority to Don Babcock as president to hopefully sign off on those in the near future. Ruth, do you want to add anything to that?
I just have a couple of comments. Ruth Warrenman, Neighborhood Capital Institute, 47 West Polk Street, Chicago, Illinois. Also residing at 1266 Buffalo Road in Galene, Michigan. This is really sort of a stopgap to cover this interim period to make sure that things don't slip between the cracks. It was purposely designed that it is terminable at will by the mayor, but it just, there are some really sensitive deadlines coming up right now that you can't mess with federal deadlines with things opportunities could be lost. So it's just a way to sort of, without binding the city unnecessarily and the new administration, but just making sure that things don't fall between the cracks. And it's on both the hospital site as well as on the transit
So
block.
this is also the Pine Street Apartments also, so.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, SCB is not involved in that element of it. So.
Right, the SCV component is specific to the transit block, and that is the really time-sensitive piece now, is getting that garage site defined so that the city has the best possible redevelopment site for its purposes.
All right, any questions for Ruth?
Let me also say too that since we started working on the term sheet with the Michigan City Development LLC, I've had 2 fairly extensive conversations with Ruth. I anticipate having at least 2 or 3 more extensive conversations between now and next Wednesday. So it's necessary, at least on that project, but I don't think that'll go beyond next Wednesday. But
It's good guidance to help us make sure that we get a good agreement with the new developer. Other questions for Ruth? I think to the point on the station block, there's a lot of people, even all the way up to the governor's office, watching what we're doing here in Michigan City. They're genuinely excited about it. They want to support us. So we want to make sure that we keep everything on track, if you will.
Yes.
So my suggestion is take this in 2 parts. If somebody would make a motion to extend Ruth's contract for 3 months, and then we'll take up the other one after that. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, and then the second one is with SCB for $3,000 per month, same period. And it's more or less the same agreement, right?
Correct, for the station block.
For station block.
Motion to approve CB for 3 months.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. I heard one aye. Okay, I just should make sure. Thank you. You're approved, and thank you for your good work,
No,
Ruth. It's been
thank you very much.
So, thank you.
So, Alan, do you need to still review these then? And then, okay, we'll hold off on signature. Okay.
Okay, I think next item is item 12, 2nd Street project.
I don't have anything more to report on this at this time. Perhaps at the next meeting on the 18th.
Okay, and then also Michigan Boulevard.
The same goes with Michigan Boulevard property. I know we're looking into some modifications that were made to the property, but we need to review both our agreement to use that as a staging area versus the construction of the project, and so I'll have conversations with the project engineers between now and our meeting on the 18th and have more information about that.
Okay. All right, report by, unless there's questions on that, report by legal counsel.
2 things, Don, you forgot again.
Excuse me.
Just to report that there was an executive session before this meeting. No items were discussed that were not permitted by the open door law, and no decisions were made. The second thing is, last month you approved, in principle, a second addendum to the agreement with Hope Consulting in the amount of $7,500. I provided you a copy of that before the meeting. You've approved the concept and the payment of $7,500, not necessarily as a claim form, but in terms of the actual payment. This is just formalizing that, and to approve that tonight and go forward. We need to take action, approve that second addendum that I provided to you, and then I guess they'll submit a bill. Yep.
Okay, so With that, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Completes the contract, the First Amendment addendum that we did, I think, last spring sometime, and then this will be the final one. It completes our relationship with them.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, thank you. Anything else from our legal counsel? Other than the executive session, right? So we already did that? All right, report by director.
I just have one other thing this evening that just came to our attention. The administration previously applied for and received federal funding for a citywide tree survey, tree and asset inventory in all the rights of way throughout the city. And this was done under the previous forester for the city. And at the time, there was money set aside for the grant match for that project. But because we went into 2019 with the process of ultimately putting that out for request for proposals, that money was no longer made available. And so the city forester is requesting that the Redevelopment Commission consider paying for half of the match necessary for the grant. The total amount of the project is $91,375. We received $71,000 of that in the form of a federal grant. So we're asking for the Redevelopment Commission to consider paying $10,000 towards the local match necessary for that grant. It does benefit the TIF districts as well as the remainder of the city, but it doesn't. The entire city isn't covered by TIF districts, so that's why we're asking for $10,000 from the Redevelopment Commission to cover half the local match. And because those funds are no longer currently available in the grant fund from the city without having to go back through the city council. And timing is of kind of the essence because we would like to be able to do this work in the spring of 2020. And like I said, we already secured the grant from the federal government for the 80% of the project cost.
So the request of us is $10,000. We get $81,000 from others, $71,000 from the feds, and $10,000 from
correct from the city. Yeah,
and need to do it now if possible. I suppose if you're comfortable, we can approve tonight. If you want to put it on the 18th, we can do that too. So
if you want more information, I can come back with more information on the 18th. But it's pretty much.
My sensitivity is just just a quick. So what's the pleasure of the commission? Gonna wait till the 18th, then, or are you ready to go?
I want to approve the $10,000 for our
Part of the match.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? All right, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Trying to take care of you, Mr. Phillips.
I don't have anything else this evening.
All right. Any public comments? Thanks for saying this evening. So any public comments? Any comments from the public? Hearing none. Commissioner comments? Any comments from commissioners? Well, even though we're going to be here on the 18th, I'll add it's been a pleasure working with all of you. I thank the commission and with the support of Craig and our legal counsel has really helped move the community forward significantly over the last several years. I think as we get new commissioners on this board, they start recognizing how much work it really is to move the community ahead. And I haven't seen anything but the utmost diligence to try to make really good decisions when we're spending community money and building great projects for the future. So it's been a pleasure to work with all of you, and I've been honored to help lead the organization. And with that, unless somebody has got anything else, motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you all. Appreciate it. More to come. More good things ahead. Thank you.